Francisco and to California, I also have the privilege of introducing someone to you who I have admired from afar for more than 2 decades. This is one of our most respected citizens, a man whose insights and vision and determination and ability to inspire all of us has turned what was one of our local churches into a major institution for liberation from hunger, hopelessness, and the addictions. Some of you may have gone yesterday to the Glide Memorial Church celebration and witnessed the magnificent diversity of the congregation which he has served with the title of Minister of Liberation for the last 26 years. Others of you may have heard or even gone to visit the food program at the church, which serves over 3,000 meals a day, their Facts on Crack program, their partnership here in the Tenderloin with a housing project tenant association in order to fight drugs, and one of the most successful recovery from addiction programs operated in our state that serves hundreds of people every day. Some of you will also be interested to know that Glide Memorial also has a program for counseling HIV-positive people. So I am very, very proud to introduce to you a man of faith who has not only developed a San Francisco institution, but who himself is a San Francisco institution, the Reverend Cecil Williams.
If we were going to recite your motto at my church, we would say, more, better, care. More, better, care means that one understands the visions that are occurring for some of us in the 1990s into the new century. And one of those visions has to do with something that Molly alluded to, as well as Doris, which has to do with immigration and migration. To rightly understand how we serve people, we must rightly also understand the mobility of people. It is my hope that all of us, in understanding this mobility, will secondly make sure that diversity, and this is why you are so important, becomes not only a model but a practice for every enterprise in America. If diversity does not, we're going to continue to have very serious problems. Each of us wants to have acceptance. Each of us wants to be empowered. But if you are not culturally, not you, but if we are not culturally specific, how can I be empowered? How can you be empowered? No one group into the 90s and to the new century will prevail as the only group. I got something to say too, baby, and everybody's gonna hear what I got to say. You see, all of us has something to say. All of us has something to live. We must live it. Thirdly, it is critical for us to then begin to see. Dr. Benny Prim was here last week, and we had a long conversation from Washington, D.C. He heads the national program there in regards to treatment and recovery. The interesting thing is that we are now convinced if we don't adequately respond to, in fact, migration into and immigration, if we don't responsibly respond to cultural diversity, we are going to see more clashes in regards to race, as we have seen in New York, in Los Angeles, in a number of our cities. We are now embarking upon a critical time, and that time is, how does race and class work with each other, by which we bring about a more human community? If the walls can come down in Germany, the walls of racism ought to come down in America also. And the administration of our country has something to do about helping to bring the walls down. But you know how bureaucrats act. Usually walls, they don't have anything to do with walls except build them. And what we got to do is make sure that those that are there, this is again why we are so important, you are so important, to make sure that the walls don't get no higher than that, so we can jump over them, y'all. Now here's what I wanted to say to you that's critical. At my place, we see on an average of 4,500 people every day. It's right across the street. At my place, not only do we see 4,500 people every day, but what we are doing with 21 programs. We have a computer learning center, which is the state of the art. I got Apple Computer and IBM to give me close to $500,000 worth of hardware and software. There is no computer center, I don't care where it is, that will match mine. I'm braggadocio, of course. But what I wanted to say to you is, I am convinced that if America does not face up to its values of integrity, the values of pride and dignity and love and hope and faith and liberty and justice and equity for all, if we don't reinterpret and redefine and reactivate ourselves in regards to those values, urban America is going to be completely, and I'm talking about the kids and the folks out there who are hopeless. You know them, you see them, you work with them. There's tremendous amount of hopelessness out there because our value system and our values have broken down. I got mothers who don't even know what a value is. And you know what I'm talking about. Many of us grew up with some kind of values. So that values are critical. The second thing is, in recovery, I'm talking about now recovery related to addiction. In recovery, I was told by the experts 5 years ago that what we need is spirituality. Nobody defined it for me. I said, well, wait, I got some of that. And what I began to do is try to look at what spirituality is. And I want to let you know that my spirituality is non-traditional. It's not traditional spirituality. See, I don't just recite, I believe in God and I believe in Jesus Christ. Because I think we believe too much, but we haven't practiced what we preached. So therefore, go ahead. Therefore, my spirituality has to do with praxis. You do it and then you talk about it. Now, I got that from some theologians in Central America and South America called liberation theology. Acting out what you do. I've been doing it all my life until I began to read some of them. I said, oh yeah, well, I'm doing that. I'll just start quoting them then, okay? Praxis. You do it and then you talk. How can you say what you believe if you haven't done it? How can you say you love when you haven't loved? How can you say you have faith when you haven't acted out your faith? You see, so therefore spirituality is critical. My spirituality says then, essentially, that what we must do then, and here's the crisis, spirituality comes with, for me, an act. And an act of me being a very spiritual person is for me to first and foremost accept the fact that I am African American. I am not white. I am nothing else. I used to try to be white. I was Oreo cookie. But I'm African American. And I love being African American. So anybody must first and foremost be who you are. That is spiritual. You hear me? That's spiritual. 40% of the people who come to my place who are members of my church are white, 40% black, 20% Asian American and Hispanic. And I want you to know something. We get down, y'all. The crisis I'm trying to say is simply that we don't try to take away anybody's understanding of who they are. We empower. Spirituality empowers. Therefore, I have been asked by people, I just met with 150 people from over the nation. I just met with some 40 different people from over the state. I just met with some people from the Midwest. I'm going to meet this week or next week with about 60 more people. We are now preparing for a conference next year for us to then now engage in a new conference entitled Recovering Values and Non-Traditional Spirituality. And we're not going to sit there and argue about whether God exists. First and foremost, I exist. And if I exist, I can embrace God's existence. But if I'm dead, then maybe God and a lot of other folks are going to have to shake me up to bring me to life. That's what spirit means. It means life, having life, making a choice about life. So we will have that conference. We're going to set up telecommunications. I'm talking to people from Washington about setting up telecommunications. But the crisis is, we have not had the follow-through and follow-up of conferences. Some of you are set up in your communities, but most conference folks, when they come, are not set up to get the job done. What I want to do is make things work, folks. I just finished a 15-city tour where I took a team of my people in, and we went in and worked 3 days with groups on a comprehensive approach. Our approach is always comprehensive. Not only all races, but all the political, the criminal justice system, ministers, all kinds of people coming together, trying to deal with the issue of helping people organize around recovery. I'm going to close out. But I want you to know that after that conference, next year, 1992, in fact, around the same date next year, what we're going to do is we're going to set up laboratories. We're going to start with Glide Church. We're going to set up laboratories in a number of cities where we can teach ministers especially, God bless them, ministers especially, how they can make their churches recovery centers, health centers, centers by which people can come and begin to go through more better health care. You hear what I'm saying? The churches need to do that. Secondly, we're going to set up not only laboratories in San Francisco as a national thrust, but we're going to go to different cities. And finally, I want you to know that everything we do must be around recovering our folks so they not only can be healthy in mind, body, and soul, but they must be also healthy in spirit and in truth. And if we can bring people to health in spirit and in truth, where people value each other rather than destroying each other, rather than doing each other in, rather than wiping each other out, if we can bring people to an understanding that human life is the most valuable source that we have in the world, if we can accept that, then you and I, as we go into the year 2000, will bring about a recovery, a kind of new understanding of how we can change this old world and make sure that every man and woman and child participates in participatory democracy, where we not just only create problems, but what we do is solve some of the problems. It is time for us, you and me, to come together, to network together, to make sure that we organize so changes can come. And Lord knows we got to start with Washington and go every other place to make sure that significant changes occur for all of us to embrace the good life. And the good life is to be alive. Thank you.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, please join in welcoming your incoming president, the distinguished executive director of the El Rio Santa Cruz Health Center in Tucson, Arizona, Mr. Robert Gomez.